Okay, at this point in our example, we have an author entity and a book entity, but we don't have any type of relationship between them. So the JPA standard does provide for several different relationships between entities. Here we are going to explore what's called a many-to-many, because in our use case, an author can have many books and a book can have many authors. So we do want to have that versatility to have that many-to-many relationship. And the first thing that we need to do is set that up. We'll start working with author first. Here what we want to do is come back and say private set, and we'll use a generic for book, and we'll call that books, like so. So that creates that, and IntelliJ is going to complain because we haven't set up the JPA mapping on that. And then also, let's go ahead and set the getters and setters for that. So that takes care of the author. Now the book as well, I want to do private set, and this will be author. We'll creatively call that authors. And when we are dealing with JPA, it's best to use a set and not a list. That is preferred, because each one of these is going to be a unique item. You could, in theory, use a list. Some people do prefer a list, but a list will allow duplicate elements. Here, we're saying that we'll never have duplicate elements in that. In reality, we really shouldn't. So that does not have the getters and setters, so we'll go ahead and use IntelliJ to generate those. So this takes care of the Java mapping at this point. Now what we need to do is take care of the JPA mapping. And what we can do here is on author, we are going to use the annotation many to many, meaning that we will have many authors to many books. So you can see we have many to many, many to one. We do want that Jakarta one, so that sets up many to many. And here we want to say map by. So this is setting up the relationship. So we're saying that this is going to be mapped by the author's property of the books. So now what we need to do is set up the inverse relationship, and this is going to be many to many. Now, what happens here, we do have a little bit more work here, because underneath the covers, JPA and Hibernate are going to use a table. So originally when we came in, there had been two tables in the database, one for author, one for book. Now what we need to do is tell Hibernate that we want to be using a join table. So now this is where we're going to introduce the join table. Again, this is also in the JPA standard. And we'll say the table name is going to be author book. Then we want to say join columns. Again, that's going to be join column. And we'll say name. And inverse join column. Inverse join column. Again, that's going to require the join column annotation, specifying a column. So basically, this join table, what we're saying is that we're going to have a table called author book, and in that, one part of the join column is going to be book ID, and then the inverse join column is going to be the author ID. So here we're saying for this entity, it'll be book ID. For the opposite side of the relationship, it's going to be author ID. So that's how that's setting up. And granted, we are moving through this a little bit fast. I admit that. We're just getting a very simple example to work in this section of the course. We will be going and looking at JPA relationships at a lot more in depth. But I just want to recap what we changed here. So on author, we have our books. We set the books property as a set, and we're saying that it's mapped by authors. And then on book, we are also doing a many-to-many relationship. And here we have our join table, and the configuration of the join table is as such.